The sunlight slanted through the massive windows of the room, painting the marble floor in sharp, golden lines. At first glance, it was perfect, lavish, elegant, and straight out of a romance novel. At second glance, I realized I was lying on a silken bed I didn't own, wearing a gown I didn't buy, and, most importantly, I was definitely not myself. Oh, for the love of... What happened? I groaned, pushing myself upright. My hands, slender and gloved, trembled as I tried to make sense of my reflection in the gilded mirror across the room. The woman staring back at me had sharp, elegant features, emerald green eyes, and a smirk that suggested either smug superiority or impending doom. Judging by the spark of panic rising in my chest, I suspected it was the latter. "Lady Seraphina," came a polite but slightly frightened voice from the door. A maid, looking as if she'd been expecting someone entirely different, curtsied deeply. "Are you awake, milady? Lady Seraphina?" I echoed, my voice sounding too elegant, too formal, far from my usual sleepy college tone. "Wait, no. That's not me. I stopped. Trying to explain, "I'm a modern girl and this is not my body," felt ridiculous, even to me. The maid tilted her head, confusion etched into her delicate features. "You are, of course, Lady Seraphina. Your breakfast will be served in an hour, and the prince's ball preparations are ongoing." I flopped back onto the bed, internally screaming. Prince's ball? Did I just transmigrate into some medieval romance nightmare? Because if I did, I want a refund. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't dreaming. The last thing I remembered was finishing an all-night gaming session. Maybe I had passed out, maybe I had died of caffeine overdose. I didn't know, but now I was a villainess in a storybook world, with all the doom flags firmly planted on my life. I remembered the synopsis of the novel I'd skimmed last semester. The heroine, sweet, clever, and impossibly beautiful. Me. Lady Seraphina, the rival, destined for disgrace. In 3 months' time, according to the book's cruel plot, I would be publicly humiliated at the ball, accused of malicious scheming, and ultimately exiled from the kingdom. Death wasn't even off the table. "Exile?" I muttered, pacing the oversized chamber. Do you know how hard it is to survive in a medieval forest? No Wi-Fi, no electricity. Probably bears. Do you know how many bears there are? The maid blinked. "I'm not sure, milady." I flopped back onto the bed again. Panic mixed with incredulity. This is it. This is my fate. I, the girl who binges web novels and eats instant ramen, am now a doomed noblewoman. A flutter at the window drew my attention. A small envelope floated in on a breeze, landing softly on my bed. My name was written in delicate curling handwriting. To the one who wishes to avoid fate. The Villainess Support Group. I stared. The paper shimmered faintly, almost glowing. My brain short-circuited. Villainess Support Group? Is this real? Am I hallucinating? Did I get transmigrated into a novel where villainesses get therapy sessions? I hesitated, then picked up the envelope. Inside, a single card read, "If you are tired of doom flags, follow the instructions. Do not trust the author. Do not trust the narrator. Enter the portal under the 3rd rose bush at midnight." I laughed nervously. Right. Midnight. Follow the talking envelope's instructions. Totally normal. Not insane at all. But curiosity, that dangerous little spark, ignited. By evening, I snuck out of my room, avoiding the maids and servants, and found the garden. There it was, the 3rd rose bush, as prescribed. A faint, swirling light glimmered beneath it. My pulse raced. Okay, I whispered to myself. Either I die tonight, or I enter the strangest villainous support group in history. No big deal. With a deep breath, I stepped into the glowing circle. The world tilted, colors bending around me. A warm, cozy room appeared out of nowhere. Candlelight flickered, plush chairs were arranged in a circle, and, at the center, sat 4 women with expressions ranging from smug delight to absolute deadpan boredom. "Welcome," said one, dramatically fanning herself. Her gown shimmered like liquid gold. "You must be the new recruit." Yes. I stammered. "I'm Lady Seraphina. I guess." The other women glanced at me. One deadpan voice said, "Finally. Another doomed soul to save, or amuse." A third scribbled notes vigorously, muttering about fate flags and heroic intervention. The last looked at me with pity, murmuring, "Poor girl, cursed with death too many times." I blinked. Wait, death? Cursed? Are you telling me I'm joining a villainous survival club? Yes, the dramatic one purred. We are the Villainess support group. Our mission, survive, thrive, and most importantly, sabotage doom flags without getting executed. Or worse, exiled. I sank into a chair, stunned. Somehow, I, modern college girl, had stumbled into a secret society of villainesses from other novels. My mind spun. Could I really survive here? Could I learn their schemes? And, most importantly, could I do it without dying in absurdly cruel ways? A small, mischievous smile crept across my face. Perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't the worst fate. Maybe being a villainess didn't have to mean tragedy. Maybe it could mean fun. All right, I said, straightening in my chair, determination mixing with panic. Teach me. I want to survive. And, if we can prank the hero along the way, even better. The room erupted in laughter. The villainesses exchanged glances, nodding in approval. And so my life as a mischievous, scheming villainess began. The next evening, I found myself pacing the velvet-carpeted lounge of the Villainess support group. My hands trembled, not from fear this time, but from sheer anticipation. After my dramatic awakening as Lady Seraphina and the rather unusual letter that had brought me here, I still couldn't believe this was real. A secret society of villainesses? From multiple novels? It was absurd. Glorious, chaotic absurd, but absurd nonetheless. The 4 other villainesses sat in a circle, each a caricature of doom flag survival. Duchess Viola reclined on a chaise, fanning herself as though I were a minor inconvenience to her evening. Princess Katerina sipped her tea with such indifference it almost hurt to watch. Countess Mirabelle was furiously scribbling in a leather-bound notebook, eyes darting as if she were cataloguing my every flaw. Lady Penelope, cursed with her own tragic story arc, sat quietly in the corner, muttering something about past lives that had ended poorly. "Ah, the new recruit," Duchess Viola declared with a flourish that made the candlelight glitter like gold. "Tell us, what is your initial reaction to finding yourself on the brink of disgrace and public humiliation?" I blinked. Panic? Panic is an excellent start, Viola nodded approvingly. Panic is the cornerstone of every true villainous survival strategy. You must master it. Princess Katerina raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. Or you could, not die. That works too. Not die. I repeated. I'm sorry, but in my previous life, I wasn't exactly a medieval aristocrat. I don't even know how to wear gloves properly. Mirabelle paused her scribbling to glance at me. Exactly why you need guidance, dear. The hero, the heroine, the narrative itself. All these forces are against us. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think so, I said, feeling my confidence waver. Basically, survive or die? Yes, Viola exclaimed. But with style. We are not merely surviving. We are scheming, pranking, manipulating fate without tipping the scales too obviously. Subtlety, dear Seraphina, is everything. Lady Penelope sighed dramatically. I once tried subtlety. It didn't work. I died. Horribly. Publicly. And then my second life was also tragic. Third life too. I am practically a professional at doom flags. I tried not to hyperventilate. Professional doom survivor? This was getting scarier by the second. But at the same time, I couldn't help smiling. This was going to be fun. Viola leaned forward, eyes sparkling with mischief. Our first lesson. Observing the hero. Every move he makes is a threat. Every smile a trap. Every polite bow, a potential doom flag. You must note everything, record it, memorize it, and sometimes, occasionally, turn it against him in small, harmless ways. Harmless ways? My brain immediately imagined accidentally sending him a pie in the face. Or slipping a love letter meant for the heroine into his jacket. Okay, maybe a little more than harmless, but still, fun. Mirabelle snapped her notebook shut. Enough chit-chat. Let's see how you handle your first assignment. You must attend tomorrow's practice ball, mingle with the nobles, and survive. That is, do not accidentally cause a scandal, do not fall in love, and do not trip over your gown. I froze. Wait. What if I do trip over my gown? Then you, Mirabelle began, but Viola interrupted with a melodramatic gasp. Then you will have entertained the court and survived. Every villainess must be prepared for such eventualities. Princess Katerina pinched the bridge of her nose. We're doomed, she muttered. All of us. But you might make it. Maybe. A shiver ran down my spine. The stakes were absurd, the setting was absurd, and the people I was supposed to trust were, well, also absurd. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something exhilarating. For the first time, I wasn't just a pawn in someone else's story. I could actively participate, manipulate the narrative, and maybe, just maybe, make the hero slip on a strategically placed rug. Mirabelle clapped her hands. Very well. Tomorrow we observe. Tonight, we prepare. You must learn the art of subtle scheming. And your first exercise, she leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, is to prank your fellow recruit. Wait me. I squeaked. Prank myself? Or? Viola laughed like a waterfall. No, no. You are to prank us. Harmlessly. Show us your cunning, Lady Seraphina. I paused. You realize I'm a modern girl, right? My idea of cunning involves sticky notes and social media hacks. I don't know how to do medieval mischief. Exactly. Viola clapped. Delighted. Adaptation is key. Creativity is essential. And above all, humor. Make us laugh or you fail. I bit my lip. My first challenge, and I had to prank professional villainesses who had survived multiple life and death storylines. The pressure was intense, but strangely exciting. By midnight, I had cobbled together my plan. A small charm that would make the other villainesses' shoes squeak annoyingly every time they took a step. Subtle, harmless, potentially humiliating. I placed it carefully on Viola's favorite slippers and waited. The next morning, as the lounge filled with the usual villainous chatter, Viola stood up, ready to address the group. And immediately, a loud squeak echoed across the room. She froze. Another squeak. She looked down at her slippers. Her eyes widened. Ha ha. It is a charming little prank, she stammered, trying to recover dignity. Mirabelle scribbled furiously in her notebook. Princess Katerina raised a suspicious eyebrow. Lady Penelope giggled quietly in the corner. I couldn't help it. I covered my mouth, trying not to laugh. It felt amazing. I had done it. My first prank. My first tiny, mischievous victory in this absurd new life. Viola finally regained composure, though her smile was slightly menacing. Impressive, she said. Perhaps you are worthy of surviving yet. But remember, the real test is not mere pranks. It is survival against the hero, the heroine, and the relentless tide of fate itself. I nodded vigorously, cheeks aching from holding in laughter. I had survived my first night. I had pranked a professional villainess. And I had realized something important. Maybe being a villainess wasn't about doom and despair. Maybe it could be fun. And I intended to have as much fun as possible. The morning sun filtered through the grand windows of the Seraphina estate, casting a warm glow over the marble floors. I had survived my first night in the villainous support group, pranked a professional villainess, and, most importantly, still had all my limbs intact. A minor victory, perhaps, but a victory nonetheless. Today's lesson was survival, and survival meant learning the rules of this storybook world. I had no choice. If I wanted to avoid exile, humiliation, or worse, I needed to absorb every ounce of villainous wisdom from my newfound mentors. Duchess Viola, looking as dramatic as ever, flounced into the lounge. Her gown sparkled so brightly I suspected it might be enchanted to blind enemies. She raised one perfectly arched hand and declared, "Today, we teach you how to survive against the cruelest forces of fate. Step 1. Never, ever, trust the hero." Wait, what? I blinked. Never trust the hero? But isn't he, the main love interest? Princess Katerina sighed, stirring her tea so gently it barely rippled. Exactly. And that is precisely why he is dangerous. He smiles at you, your doom flag rises. He compliments you, Your doom flag explodes. He does nothing, your doom flag. She made an exploding gesture with her hand. Is catastrophic. I scribbled notes furiously in a little notebook I had stolen from Mirabelle. Rule 1. Avoid charming protagonists. Got it. Mirabelle clapped her hands together. Good. Step 2. Observe the heroine. She is clever, persistent, and irritatingly virtuous. Any action she takes will either improve her plot armor or make your life miserable. Take notes. I nodded, but inwardly groaned. So basically, my entire existence is reactive. I survive by following everyone else's moves. Yes, Viola said, dramatically placing a hand over her heart. And by pranking them mercilessly. Do not forget, subtle sabotage is an art form. Harmless chaos is your weapon. Harmless chaos? I repeated. Like, slipping a frog into the prince's bath? Or redirecting a love letter to the wrong person, Mirabelle finished. Exactly. But never lethal. We are villains, not monsters. Mostly. Lady Penelope sighed from the corner. Mostly, she echoed, making a tragic face. I once wrote a poisoned love letter. Not subtle. Failed miserably. Died. Again. I made a mental note. No poison. Definitely no poison. Viola clapped her hands. Enough chatter. Today we will conduct practical exercises. Observe carefully. Each of you will receive a survival task. Fail, and your doom flag will rise. Succeed, and, well, congratulations, you are marginally less doomed than before. My first task was simple, at least according to Viola. You must attend the practice ball tonight without causing a scandal, tripping over your gown, or accidentally confessing love to the hero. I stared. That sounds terrifying. Katerina snorted. Terrifying is the minimum standard. Remember, you're a villainess. You are born to fail spectacularly. Or survive cleverly. Hopefully survive. Mirabelle handed me a leather-bound notebook filled with sketches and notes. These are tips from past members. Study them. Use them. Abuse them if necessary. Your survival depends on wit, cunning, and creativity. I opened the notebook to see diagrams for everything from how to trip elegantly to disguise your scheming face when caught. There were even flowcharts for hero interaction, avoid or prank. I blinked. This is intense. Intense is the only way to survive, Viola said, her dramatic eyes gleaming. Now, practice your scheming. I spent the next several hours testing various survival techniques. My first attempt involved pretending to faint at an inopportune moment to avoid a conversation with the hero. Unfortunately, I fainted a little too convincingly and knocked over a tray of tea, drenching Princess Katerina in Earl Grey. Why is it always tea? Katerina groaned, but I caught a small smirk at the corner of her lips. Progress. Next, I tried subtle sabotage. I slipped a small charm under the heroine's slipper so it would squeak embarrassingly when she walked. The heroine appeared, elegant and radiant as ever, and immediately tripped in a perfectly comic fashion. She recovered without noticing, but the court gasped. I scribbled another mental note. Subtle pranks work best when others are oblivious. Finally, I attempted a small, harmless chaos experiment. I enchanted a bouquet of roses so that when someone leaned in to smell them, a gentle puff of glitter exploded into the air. Viola gasped in delight, Katerina rolled her eyes, Mirabelle furiously took notes, and Penelope giggled. I couldn't stop grinning. I realized something vital. Surviving didn't mean hiding. Surviving meant playing the narrative, bending the story to my will, and adding a little chaos along the way. If I could make it fun, maybe, just maybe, I could avoid doom entirely. The day ended with Viola clapping her hands again. Well, Lady Seraphina, you have learned the first lesson. Survival is not just avoidance. It is creativity, humor, and mischief. Tomorrow we escalate. You will meet the hero directly. Remember, keep your wits about you, and above all, have fun. I sank into a chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Fun. Mischief? Survival? Somehow, all three were intertwined. And that was when I realized, I wasn't just a doomed villainess anymore. I was a schemer, a prankster, a survivor, and maybe, just maybe, the most entertaining villainess this kingdom had ever seen. The day of the practice ball arrived faster than I could mentally prepare for it. My stomach churned in a perfect mix of nerves, excitement, and the inevitable dread of doom flags. Somehow, in just a few short days, I had gone from a modern college girl binge-watching web novels to a full-blown scheming villainess in training. And now, I had to face the biggest challenge of all: the hero. I stood in front of my gilded mirror, adjusting my emerald green gown for what felt like the 100th time. The reflection staring back at me was flawless, radiant even, and completely oblivious to the fact that I was internally screaming. "Lady Seraphina," came a soft, wary voice from the doorway. It was the maid, bowing slightly. "The ball is about to begin. Shall I escort you?" I shook my head frantically. "No, I can manage. Besides, I need to practice my survival tactics first. You know, avoid doom flags, smile convincingly, trip occasionally, maybe enchant a chair or two." The maid blinked. "Yes, milady," she said cautiously and retreated, leaving me alone with my spiraling thoughts. I took a deep breath and tried to mentally run through all the villainous survival strategies. Observe the hero. Check. Avoid the heroine. Check. Cause harmless chaos. Check. Do not accidentally confess love or trip too obviously. Maybe half check. As I stepped into the grand ballroom, the sheer opulence made my jaw drop. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, the marble floor gleamed, and nobles dressed in extravagant gowns and tailored suits mingled, laughed, and danced. My pulse raced. This was it, the real test. And then, he appeared. The male lead. Hero of the story. Tall, impossibly handsome, with hair that gleamed like molten gold and eyes that could melt the most scheming of villainesses. He scanned the room, his gaze sweeping past nobles, past glittering decorations, and landed on me. "Oh, Lady Seraphina," he said, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "You look different tonight." I froze. Different? Good? Bad? Deadly? Before I could respond, Viola's voice echoed in my head. "Observe the hero. React cleverly. Survive." I forced a polite smile and curtsied, trying not to hyperventilate. "Thank you, sir. I hope the ball meets your expectations." His smirk widened. "It already exceeds expectations." Cue panic. My doom flag radar blared. Every word, every glance, every subtle tilt of his head. All potentially catastrophic. I needed to act. I pivoted, attempting a graceful walk toward a corner, hoping to blend in with the crowd. That's when I saw her. The heroine. Bright, radiant, smiling with the effortless charm that had doomed me in the story I had read. She floated through the crowd, waving delicately at the nobles, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold. I ducked behind a gilded pillar, muttering under my breath. Observe, avoid, prank, survive. Got it. Got it. Got it. The hero, of course, noticed immediately and started moving in my direction. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. My brain scrambled for an idea. What would the villainous support group do in this situation? Distraction. Viola's voice hissed in my memory. Harmless chaos. Make it amusing. Survive. I scanned the room. The options were limited. Then my eyes landed on a decorative vase filled with flowers. Perfect. I gently nudged it with my foot, and it wobbled precariously. Just as the hero approached, the vase toppled, spilling flowers across the floor. I tripped dramatically while trying to save it, landing with one knee awkwardly on the polished marble. The hero blinked, surprised. The heroine gasped in delight, rushing to help me up. I froze, momentarily horrified. This was not part of the plan. And then, hilariously, a small enchantment I had set earlier, the glitter charm from yesterday, activated. Flowers erupted with a gentle puff of sparkling dust. The ballroom gasped, nobles giggled, and the hero's smirk widened, clearly amused. "Well," he said, leaning closer, "if surviving the villainess's chaos is a sport, you're undefeated." I swallowed, cheeks flaming. Thank you?" Meanwhile, the heroine, oblivious to my scheming, smiled warmly. "Oh, Seraphina. I didn't expect you to be clumsy today." Clumsy. Yes, that was my new reputation. Villainous survival tactic. Embrace clumsiness while secretly orchestrating chaos. I caught a glance from the villainous support group, who had somehow appeared in the balcony, observing from a safe distance. Viola gave me a dramatic thumbs up. Mirabelle scribbled furiously, notes on my effective chaos tactics. Katerina sipped her tea, expressionless but approving, and Penelope whispered, "You're learning." By the end of the night, I had survived several near-dooms. The hero nearly caught me in a private conversation, but I distracted him with a strategically dropped fan. The heroine tried to compliment me multiple times, which I deflected with a well-timed sneeze, on purpose of course. I tripped over a chair once, only to land in a way that seemed intentional and charming. As the ball wound down, the hero approached me again. "Lady Seraphina," he said, voice low and teasing, "I must admit, I did not expect a villainess to be so entertaining." I forced a bow, trying not to laugh. "Entertainment is my specialty, sir." He chuckled, eyes sparkling with amusement, and for a terrifying second, I thought he might see through all my schemes. But perhaps I realized, he enjoyed the chaos as much as I did. And as the villains, the hero, and the unsuspecting heroine mingled under the sparkling chandeliers, I felt a dangerous thrill. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was participating. I was scheming. I was alive, and utterly mischievous. Tomorrow, I realized, would be even more chaotic. But for the first time in my villainous life, I smiled genuinely. Because surviving wasn't enough. Mischief was better. The morning after the practice ball, I woke up with a stiff neck, aching cheeks from excessive smiling, and a slowly forming sense of dread. Somehow, the hero hadn't stopped smirking at me in his last bow before leaving the ballroom. Not a good sign. Somehow, the heroine hadn't noticed my orchestrated glitter fiasco. Also, not a good sign. I rolled out of bed and glanced at the mirror, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. "Okay, Seraphina," I muttered to myself. "Time to survive another day." Today's challenge, the heroine. Ah yes, the heroine. Bright. Radiant. Annoyingly clever. She was everything a villainess was not. Perfect posture, perfect hair, perfect manners, and apparently perfect at making me panic. In the book, she would inevitably steal the hero's attention, outshine my schemes, and leave me crying in the garden. Today, I had other plans. The villainous support group had convened in the lounge, as usual, each with their own form of doom survival preparation. Duchess Viola stretched dramatically, her gown glittering like liquid gold. "Ah, the heroine," she said, waving a hand theatrically. "Your eternal adversary. Observe her, study her, and if necessary, outwit her." Princess Katerina stirred her tea with languid precision. "Or trip her into a flower pot. Sometimes subtlety is overrated." Mirabelle's notebook was already open. "I've created a diagram," she said, flipping to a chart full of arrows, stars, and annotations. Step 1. Distract the heroine. Step 2. Sow minor chaos. Step 3. Ensure hero notices you first. Step 4. Survive the aftermath. Lady Penelope sighed dramatically, muttering, "I tried step 3 once. Died. Long story." I nodded frantically. Got it. Distraction. Chaos. Hero. Survive. Easy enough. Later that morning, I arrived at the gardens, where the heroine was practicing her walk, presumably for the next ball. Perfect. Graceful. Radiant. The usual. "Good morning, Seraphina," the heroine chirped. "I didn't expect you to join me." I forced a polite smile. Of course. Exercise is important for posture. The heroine's smile widened. "I'm glad we can practice together. Perhaps we can compare notes on elegance and charm." Compare notes? That was villainous speak for outshine and embarrass me at every opportunity. My heart sank, but I refused to panic. Instead, I pulled out my first weapon of choice. Mischief. I discreetly enchanted a few of the garden sprinklers, setting them on a timer to go off in 5 minutes. Then, I casually strolled next to the heroine, commenting on the beauty of the roses. 5 minutes later, splash. The heroine gasped as water shot up from the enchanted sprinklers, drenching her gown. I gasped in mock horror, rushing forward with an "Oh no, let me help you" expression. She recovered gracefully, laughing, while I bit my lip, suppressing a victorious grin. Harmless chaos. Mission accomplished. Unfortunately, the hero appeared at that precise moment. Tall, golden-haired, and amused. "Seraphina," he said, eyes twinkling, "it seems you're quite skilled at unintended pranks." I bowed, cheeks flaming. "Entertainment is my specialty, sir." The heroine giggled, brushing water off her sleeves. "Oh, Seraphina, always keeping things interesting." The hero smirked knowingly, but I could tell he hadn't caught on fully. Which meant I was winning, or at least, surviving. Encouraged, I escalated my mischief. I had noticed a particularly large low-hanging branch over a garden path. A small charm caused it to gently swing whenever someone walked underneath. Perfect for a subtle trip, or at least a comic stumble. "Watch this," I whispered to myself, pressing the charm. The heroine walked under the branch, and it swung down just enough to brush her shoulder. She gasped and stepped back, but recovered gracefully as always. The hero's amused gaze lingered on me. Yes, I thought. I'm making minor chaos without catastrophe. This is exactly what Mirabelle's chart said. By midday, I had executed several minor schemes. A bench that wobbled ever so slightly when the heroine sat. A bouquet that gently sprayed glitter when handled. Strategically placed petals that caused the heroine to sneeze elegantly, ruining her perfect composure just a fraction. Each time, the hero's eyes twinkled with amusement, and the heroine remained charmingly oblivious. I felt a thrill of power I had never experienced before. But then came the ultimate challenge. Direct interaction. The heroine approached me with a bright smile. "Seraphina, let's see if we can practice polite conversation without stepping on each other's feet, shall we?" I froze. Conversation? With her? Alone? My mind scrambled for strategies. Step 1. Survive. Step 2. Inject chaos. Step 3. Impress hero. Step 4. Don't die. I decided on subtle sabotage. I complimented her shoes, and discreetly enchanted them so they squeaked with every step. She stopped in surprise, glanced down, then laughed lightly, assuming it was some accident. The hero, naturally, noticed immediately. "Interesting footwear," he said, smirking. "Unique choice, Seraphina." I blinked. "Why, thank you." The heroine tilted her head. "Oh dear. I wonder what happened to mine." Chaos achieved. Harmless. Amusing chaos. I felt a surge of pride. I was surviving. I was scheming. I was enjoying myself far too much. By evening, the Villainess support group convened to evaluate my performance. Viola's dramatic clap echoed through the room. "Well done, Seraphina. You have survived the heroine's charms, engaged in harmless chaos, and even caught the hero's attention. You are improving." Mirabelle nodded approvingly. "Your timing was impeccable. Minor chaos executed without detection. Excellent work." Princess Katerina raised her teacup. Survival rate: 100%. Mischief success: 85%. Room for improvement: subtlety. Lady Penelope smiled faintly. "You may yet become a true mischief queen." I leaned back in my chair, exhausted but exhilarated. This life wasn't safe, but it was fun. Survival didn't have to be boring. Chaos didn't have to be destructive. And perhaps, just perhaps, being a villainess could be entertaining. Because in this story, I had decided one thing for certain. If I had to survive, I would do it with flair, laughter, and a healthy dose of harmless mischief. The morning after my victorious day of harmless chaos, I awoke with a strange mix of exhilaration and exhaustion. My cheeks still hurt from smiling too much, and my arms ached from waving, curtsying, and executing minor pranks. Somehow, though, I felt more alive than I ever had. Villainous life wasn't about despair. It was about cunning, creativity, and, above all, mischief. I slid out of bed and headed to the lounge, where the Villainous support group was already assembled. Today's lesson promised to be different. Viola stood in the center, gown glittering in the morning sun, arms raised dramatically. "Today," she declared, "we tackle disaster prevention. No villainess can survive in this cruel narrative without a proper plan for everything." Mirabelle nodded, flipping through her notebook. Disaster prevention involves foresight, scheming, and sometimes, manipulation of minor characters. Their reactions can be leveraged to avert doom flags or create entertaining chaos. Katerina stirred her tea slowly, unimpressed. Or, trip everyone on a banana peel. Simple, effective, chaotic. Penelope sighed from her corner. I've seen that method fail disastrously. The hero catches the villainess, the heroine triumphs, doom strikes. Trivial chaos must be subtle. I raised an eyebrow. So subtle chaos. Got it. Sounds manageable. Viola clapped her hands. Excellent. We have selected a suitable minor event to practice disaster prevention. The upcoming Royal Garden Festival. The hero, the heroine, and countless nobles will be present. This is your testing ground. I gulped. Garden Festival. Public. Hero nearby. Heroine nearby. Chaos opportunities galore. My mind raced. Step 1, Mirabelle instructed. Observe all participants. Take note of possible doom triggers. Slippery paths, overenthusiastic animals, enchanted objects, magical mishaps. Step 2. Deploy harmless chaos to manipulate outcomes subtly. Step 3. Survive. Optional. Amuse ourselves in the process. I felt a thrill run down my spine. Optional amusement? That was my specialty. By midday, we arrived at the festival. The gardens were a riot of color. Flowers in every hue, stalls selling glittering trinkets, and nobles milling about in elegant gowns and suits. A fountain bubbled merrily in the center, surrounded by marble benches. Every surface, I realized, was a potential playground for mischief. The hero strolled past, his golden hair gleaming, scanning the crowd with that infuriatingly charming smile. The heroine glided by, radiant as ever, completely oblivious to the chaos I was about to unleash. I exchanged a glance with the villainess group. Viola raised a hand dramatically. Initiate operations. The first prank was small but effective. I enchanted a few garden lanterns so that when the wind blew, they twinkled and tilted, creating an illusion of flickering flames. Nobles gasped and giggled, assuming it was intended. The hero's eyes twinkled with amusement. Mission 1. Subtle chaos, success. Next I targeted the heroine. A charming little charm caused her shoes to squeak with every step. She looked down in surprise, and the hero noticed immediately. I hid behind a bush, suppressing laughter as he smirked knowingly in my direction. The heroine, oblivious, continued on her way, regaining composure elegantly. Mission 2. Chaos, minimal detection. Then came the minor characters. A mischievous squirrel, attracted to a pile of enchanted nuts I had left earlier, scampered onto the stage where a young noble was giving a speech. The squirrel performed an impromptu acrobatic routine, sending papers fluttering and creating minor panic. The hero chuckled. The heroine gasped. I bit my lip proud. Mission 3. Disaster prevention through clever chaos, success. But of course, things escalated quickly. I tried a prank involving a fountain charm that caused the water to rise slightly when someone leaned over it. Unfortunately, a clumsy noble leaned too far, splashing water onto a group of guests. The hero's eyebrow shot up, the heroine gasped, and Viola clapped dramatically. Bravo, she shouted. You are learning the delicate art of controlled chaos. Mirabelle scribbled furiously, muttering about timing optimization and chaos to survival ratio. Katerina sipped her tea, expressionless but approving. Penelope whispered, I think you're ready. By evening, the festival had descended into a gentle whirlwind of harmless pranks. Sparkling fountains, squeaky shoes, glittering bouquets, and acrobatic squirrels. Guests laughed, the hero appeared entertained, and the heroine remained blissfully unaware of most of the chaos. I leaned against a marble pillar, exhausted but exhilarated. This was it, the thrill of survival through mischief. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was participating, scheming, and most importantly having fun. Viola approached, fanning herself dramatically. Serafina, you have passed today's trial with distinction. You have prevented potential disasters, caused harmless chaos, and maintained your charm. You are improving. Mirabelle nodded, still scribbling notes. Your timing and creativity were excellent. Your chaos ratio is optimal. Minor tweaks needed only in subtlety and hero distraction techniques. Katerina raised her cup. Mischief Queen status. Approaching. Penelope smiled faintly. I think you may actually survive this story arc. I exhaled, finally allowing myself to grin. This life was unpredictable, dangerous, and completely ridiculous, but I was ready. I had discovered a truth. Villainesses didn't need to be tragic. Mischief could be a survival tool. Chaos could be a friend. And above all, fun was essential. As the sun set over the gardens, I felt a thrill of anticipation for the next challenge. The royal ball. The hero would be there. The heroine would be there. And I would be there, fully armed with cunning chaos and just the right amount of mischief. Because if I was going to survive, I was going to do it with flair. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of roses and freshly baked bread from the castle kitchens. I perched on the edge of a marble fountain, sipping tea and reviewing my list of chaos opportunities for the day. The Villainess support group had declared today a high-stakes training day, meaning both the hero and heroine would be nearby. Survival, subtle chaos, and if possible, slight amusement were all mandatory. I glanced at the notebook Mirabelle had given me, filled with diagrams and flowcharts of minor disasters that could be triggered without detection. Squeaky shoes, glitter bouquets, enchanted chairs. Each tactic carefully measured for maximum harmless mischief. And yet, as I scanned the courtyard, one thing made me hesitate: the hero. He was leaning casually against a column, golden hair glinting in the sun, eyes scanning the crowd with that infuriatingly perceptive expression. My chest fluttered, a feeling I hadn't anticipated. No. Focus, I muttered to myself. This is about survival, chaos, mischief, not feelings. Do not be distracted by the hero. Easier said than done. The heroine appeared moments later, radiant as ever, moving gracefully between guests. Her smile was bright, her laughter musical, and I could feel my doom flags rising already. Time to act. Survival first. Mischief second. Maybe, if I was lucky, the hero wouldn't notice too much. I stepped forward with calculated casualness, ready to deploy my first tactic. Subtle glitter powder that caused anyone brushing against it to sneeze delicately, disrupting their composure. The heroine approached, and I flicked the powder with precision. She sneezed elegantly, as expected, barely missing the hero's gaze. Mission 1. Chaos successful. But then he noticed me. The hero's amber eyes locked onto mine, and he smirked. That smirk. Oh no. That smirk meant he wasn't just observing. He was amused. And I couldn't stop smiling back, despite myself. Lady Seraphina, he said, approaching, you've been quite active today. I nearly choked on my tea. Active. Did he mean chaotic or intentionally mischievous? Both. Just practicing etiquette, I stammered, curtsying poorly but recovering with a small intentional wobble that made my entrance appear charmingly clumsy. He chuckled softly. Meanwhile, the heroine, completely oblivious, commented, Seraphina, you always bring excitement to these events. Excitement. Yes, that was the word. Excitement. Mischief. Survival. Survival through mischief. I nodded politely, though inside I was vibrating with a strange thrill. The day continued in a series of escalating chaotic opportunities. I enchanted the fountain to spritz water slightly whenever the hero walked by. He laughed each time, clearly enjoying the harmless chaos. A minor noble tripped over a subtle charm I'd placed on a marble path. The heroine moved to help, but I intercepted with an exaggerated stumble, saving the noble. The hero noticed. Smirk. Victory. I caused a small bird to drop a flower onto the heroine's shoulder. Subtle, harmless, yet amusing for anyone observing. By the afternoon, I realized something. I was enjoying this far more than I should. The hero's amused attention was intoxicating, and my playful pranks no longer felt purely tactical. They felt fun. And then came the ultimate test. A direct interaction between the hero, the heroine, and me. The heroine approached, radiant as always, holding a small basket of flowers. Seraphina, why don't we present these to the mayor together? She suggested sweetly. I exchanged a glance with the hero, who tilted his head slightly, clearly amused. My brain scrambled. Presenting flowers, alongside the heroine, in front of the hero? Doom flags rising exponentially. I had one option, chaos, mischief, survival. Of course, I said, stepping forward. But as we walked, I subtly enchanted the basket so that every time someone reached in for a flower, a tiny puff of glitter emerged. Harmless, elegant chaos. The heroine lifted a flower, and glitter puffed delicately into the air. She sneezed politely, unaware of the enchantment. The hero laughed quietly, eyes twinkling. And I bowed slightly, trying not to grin. Afterwards, as the two of them continued talking, the hero lingered nearby, smirking at my antics. My cheeks flushed. This was supposed to be about survival, but now, somehow, I had captured his attention in a very dangerous, thrilling way. The Villainess support group appeared discreetly on the balcony, observing. Viola clapped dramatically, Mirabelle scribbled notes furiously, Katerina sipped her tea with approval, and Penelope whispered, "She's learning fast." By sunset, I realized two things. Mischief could be a survival tool. I was dangerously enjoying the hero's amused attention. And as I walked back to the estate with the hero trailing behind, laughing softly at my playful commentary, I understood something profound. In this story, survival wasn't just about avoiding doom flags. It was about participating in the chaos, bending fate to my advantage. And perhaps, just perhaps, letting a little mischief into my heart. Because in this life I had decided, if I was going to survive, I would do it with laughter, chaos, and just enough charm to keep the hero thoroughly entertained. The night of the royal ball arrived like a sparkling storm. Chandeliers glittered overhead, nobles in lavish gowns and suits swirled across the marble floors, and the air buzzed with excitement, gossip, and the faint scent of perfume mixed with tension. This was it, the ultimate test for any villainess. Survive, outshine the heroine, amuse the hero, and of course, create chaos without triggering doom flags. I adjusted my emerald green gown in front of the mirror, heart hammering in equal parts anticipation and glee. Tonight, I wasn't just surviving. I was orchestrating a symphony of harmless chaos. The Villainous support group had spent hours plotting subtle enchantments, glitter charms, and minor disruptions. I had a whole arsenal ready to deploy. Tonight, Viola's voice echoed dramatically in my memory. You are not merely a survivor. You are a conductor of fate itself. Mischief. Serafina. Mischief. I smiled wickedly. Mischief. That was my specialty. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, the room seemed to shift around me. Music swelled, candles flickered, and every noble's gaze subtly landed on me. I caught a glimpse of the heroine, radiant and oblivious, gliding through the crowd with perfect poise. And of course the hero, leaning casually against a balcony railing, watching me with that infuriatingly amused expression. I took a deep breath. Step 1. Chaos. Step 2. Subtlety. Step 3. Survive. Step 4. Entertain hero. Step 5. Repeat. My first target. The dessert table. A delicate charm caused the pastries to emit gentle sparks of glitter whenever touched. Nobles squealed with delight. The heroine lifted a macaron and was immediately showered in harmless sparkling dust. She sneezed delicately, barely covering it with an elegant handkerchief. The hero chuckled softly, eyes twinkling at my handiwork. Victory. Next, I moved toward the dancing floor. I subtly enchanted a few chairs so that they would wobble ever so slightly when someone sat. A minor noble nearly toppled into the heroine, who caught them effortlessly, unaware of the charm. I helped her steady the guest, tripping just enough to appear charmingly clumsy. The hero noticed, smirk widening. Another victory. Then came the piece de resistance. The fountain. I had spent hours earlier planting a tiny charm that caused water jets to puff up in gentle sparkling bursts whenever anyone approached too closely. As the heroine and hero strolled past, the fountain erupted like a sparkling geyser, drenching their feet and eliciting startled gasps. I rushed to rescue them, arms flailing in dramatic fashion, while suppressing laughter. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Nobles laughed, the music faltered as a waiter tripped over a sparkling macaron, and the glitter charm on the chandelier caused a tiny cascade of sparkling dust to fall on the crowd. The hero's laugh was low, amused, and pointed directly at me. The heroine, blissfully unaware of my orchestrations, smiled politely, clearly assuming it was some minor mishap. I leaned against a marble pillar, heart racing. This was more than survival. This was artistry. Mischief with style. chaos with flair. And, most importantly, it was fun. But of course, nothing could be entirely smooth. The heroine approached, radiant as ever. "Serafina," she said sweetly, "you seem unusually energetic tonight." I blinked, trying to appear casual while discreetly flicking a charm on her slippers that caused tiny sparkles to appear with each step. "Just enjoying the festivities," I replied, curtsying with exaggerated elegance. The hero's eyes sparkled as he watched the interaction, clearly entertained. "Serafina," he said, leaning closer, "I must admit, I did not expect such creativity from a villainess." I swallowed, cheeks flaming. "Entertainment is my specialty, sir." The night continued in a whirlwind of playful chaos. Glittering pastries caused polite sneezes and chuckles. Squeaky shoes and wobbling chairs kept nobles guessing. The enchanted fountain erupted on cue. Minor pranks triggered bursts of laughter throughout the ballroom. Through it all, the hero remained amused, his gaze occasionally lingering on me. The heroine remained charmingly oblivious, navigating my chaos with grace and poise. By the end of the evening, I felt a thrill of triumph. I had survived the royal ball, orchestrated harmless chaos, and, most dangerously, captured the hero's amusement. The Villainess support group appeared on the balcony afterward, applauding quietly. Viola's dramatic smile could have lit the entire ballroom. Mirabelle scribbled notes furiously. Katerina sipped her tea with approval and Penelope whispered, "She's ready for anything." And in that moment, I realized something profound. Survival didn't have to be boring. Mischief was powerful. Chaos could be fun. And if I played my cards right, the hero might just enjoy the ride too. As the music faded and the nobles began to depart, I allowed myself a small victorious grin. This was only the beginning. The real adventure, the mischievous, chaotic, and thoroughly entertaining life of a villainess, was just starting. Because in this story, I had decided one thing. If I was going to survive, I wasn't going to do it quietly. I was going to survive with laughter, pranks, and enough sparkle to make the hero, and everyone else, entirely captivated. The morning after the royal ball, the castle felt unusually quiet. The echoes of laughter, glittering chaos, and minor disasters from the previous night still lingered in my memory, making me grin uncontrollably. Somehow, against all odds and numerous doom flags, I had survived the royal ball without tripping over my own feet, being humiliated, or accidentally confessing my feelings to the hero. In fact, I had thrived. The Villainous support group assembled in the lounge, each member looking unusually pleased with my progress. Viola flounced dramatically across the room, her gown catching the sunlight like a prism. "Serafina, you have surpassed expectations. Not only did you survive, but you entertained the court, amused the hero, and caused chaos without catastrophe." Mirabelle scribbled furiously in her notebook. "The chaos-to-survival ratio is optimal. Very few villainesses achieve this level of mastery." Katerina sipped her tea with a faint smile. "You're dangerous and amusing. A rare combination." Penelope leaned back, a small smile on her face. "You might actually survive this story arc and enjoy it." I couldn't stop myself from laughing softly. "Enjoy it? Absolutely. Survive? Obviously. Mischief? Well, let's just say I have plans." And plans I had. The first order of business. The hero. He had been amused, intrigued, and occasionally perplexed by my antics throughout the ball. That was dangerous. The more he laughed at me, the more my heart did something strange, fluttering uncontrollably in a way modern Serafina had never experienced. But I refused to be intimidated. If he wanted to play, I would play harder. I decided to test my skills with a small, harmless prank. During breakfast, I enchanted the napkins to produce a gentle puff of glitter when unfolded. The hero lifted his napkin and, as expected, a soft burst of sparkling dust rose into the air. He blinked in surprise, then chuckled, eyes glinting with amusement. "Lady Serafina," he said, lowering his napkin, "you never fail to surprise." I curtsied, hiding a victorious grin. "Surprise is my specialty, sir." The heroine, seated gracefully nearby, glanced at me with a polite smile. "Oh, Serafina, always keeping things lively." "Exactly. Lively. Mischievous. Survivor." I felt a thrill surge through me. But survival wasn't just about impressing or amusing the hero. It was about securing my place as the undisputed mischief queen of the narrative. I had a list, naturally. Harmless pranks, glitter, squeaky shoes, enchanted chairs, and strategically timed water splashes. Hero interaction. Maintain amusement, subtle tension, and avoid doom flags. Heroine rivalry. Playful, non-lethal chaos to keep my status intact. Villainous support group validation. Check. By mid-morning, I executed several minor schemes with precision. A charm on the heroine's teacup caused a tiny splash when lifted, eliciting a delicate gasp. Harmless. Amusing. Perfect. A strategically enchanted broom swept the floor in a comedic, self-propelled pattern, narrowly avoiding nobles. Chaos level. 7 out of 10. Glitter bombs hidden in bouquets created a sparkling display every time someone touched them. Bonus. The hero laughed. The group watched from the balcony as I orchestrated chaos with elegance, timing, and subtle charm. Viola clapped dramatically, Mirabelle scribbled notes furiously, Katerina raised her cup in silent approval, and Penelope whispered, "She's perfected it." By afternoon, the castle staff had grown accustomed to my antics. Nobles laughed and whispered about the mysterious mischief. The hero followed my movements with amused attention, and the heroine remained oblivious. Charming, radiant, and unknowingly part of my harmless schemes. It was then I realized, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. Mischief had become my survival tool, my joy, and my secret weapon. And the best part? The story couldn't touch me anymore. Not truly. I had learned the rules, bent them with style, and created chaos that no doom flag could anticipate. That evening, the hero approached me alone in the garden. Lanterns flickered softly, casting golden light over the flowers. He smiled, clearly entertained. "You've been relentless today," he said, voice low and teasing. "I can't tell if you're a genius or completely insane." I tilted my head, smirking. "Perhaps a little of both, sir. Entertainment is my specialty, after all." He chuckled. "I suspected as much. But somehow, I enjoy it." Dangerous, delightful words. My cheeks warmed, but I kept my mischievous grin. "Good. Then I shall continue. For your amusement." He raised an eyebrow, smirk widening. "I look forward to it." The heroine approached, radiant and smiling, completely unaware of my chaos. I subtly enchanted a nearby flower to sneeze delicate glitter on her shoulder. She gasped politely, adjusted her hair, and smiled. The hero laughed softly. I bowed slightly, concealing a victorious grin. Later, the villainous support group convened one last time. Viola clapped dramatically. "Serafina, you have survived, amused, and caused chaos without disaster. You have mastered the art of villainous mischief." Mirabelle nodded. "Your skills are unmatched for your experience. Mischief and survival are now one." Katerina sipped her tea. "You've earned your title, Mischief Queen." Penelope smiled faintly. "And, happily alive. I approve." I leaned back, finally allowing myself a satisfied grin. For the first time in any life, I realized, I could survive, have fun, and live happily ever after, on my own terms. Because in this story, doom flags no longer dictated my fate. Mischief, chaos, and laughter ruled instead. And the hero? Well, he seemed willing to play along. I had flipped the narrative entirely. I wasn't just the villainess anymore. I was the mischief queen. And this was only the beginning. The castle was quiet in the early morning light, a rare moment of peace before the inevitable chaos of the day began. I, however, was far from peaceful. Sitting cross-legged on the balcony, notebook in hand, I was meticulously planning my next round of harmless pranks for the hero, the heroine, and of course, any unsuspecting noble who wandered too close. Because in this life, survival wasn't enough. Mischief was essential. The villainous support group had dispersed for the morning, each returning to their respective novels, or in Penelope's case, her endless tea-drinking contemplations. Viola had dramatically flounced away, leaving a trail of sparkling gown fabric, while Mirabelle was scribbling future chaos diagrams in her notebook with alarming fervor. Katerina, true to form, sipped her tea with unbothered elegance. And I was the mischief queen now, fully aware of my power. Subtle chaos was my kingdom. The hero, of course, had already noticed. This morning, he approached with a mischievous glint in his amber eyes. "Seraphina," he said, voice low, teasing, "I see you've been up early plotting. Should I be worried?" I smirked, tilting my head. "Worried? Only if you don't enjoy harmless chaos, sir. Otherwise, you're safe." He chuckled, leaning casually against the balcony railing. "Safe, huh? That's reassuring. Somehow, I think your definition of harmless might differ from mine." Exactly the response I wanted. His amusement, that spark in his eyes, encouraged me. Mischief, after all, was more fun when someone appreciated it, or better yet, participated silently. I had perfected my little system over the past weeks. The hero, amused, slightly flustered, often caught in the fallout of my playful schemes. The heroine, oblivious, charming, occasionally the accidental recipient of minor pranks. Nobles and staff, entertained, slightly confused, but ultimately impressed by my cunning. Take, for example, the glittering breakfast incident I orchestrated last week. A tiny charm caused the sugar in the sugar bowl to emit a soft sparkle whenever stirred. The hero's morning tea glowed faintly. He had laughed, clearly intrigued, and muttered, "You never fail to surprise." The heroine, sipping politely nearby, had merely tilted her head in polite curiosity, completely unaware. Mission accomplished. Or the enchanted shoes spectacle, during a stroll in the gardens, where her heels squeaked in a perfect comedic rhythm whenever she stepped. The hero had stifled laughter. The heroine had adjusted her posture, oblivious. Perfection. This, I realized, was my life now. A careful blend of chaos, charm, and subtle romance. And yes, I allowed myself a thrill of delight whenever the hero's amused gaze lingered on me. But I refused to be predictable. Predictable villains died. Mischief was survival. Mischief was power. Mischief was joy. The day progressed in a series of playful skirmishes. A bouquet I had enchanted to puff glitter upon touch caused a minor noble to sneeze elegantly, narrowly avoiding stepping on the heroine's gown. The hero had laughed softly from a nearby balcony. A chair charm caused subtle wobbling during a council meeting. Nobles gasped, the heroine helped someone regain balance, and I bowed politely while hiding a victorious grin. A hidden fountain charm released a sparkling spray at precisely the wrong moment, eliciting laughter and applause from the attending guests. Every incident reinforced the truth I had discovered. Villainesses didn't need to be tragic. Mischief could be power. Chaos could be joy. And a life carefully balanced between harmless pranks and survival could be genuinely fun. That evening, the hero approached me in the gardens again, under the soft glow of lanterns. His expression was playful, eyes twinkling. "Seraphina," he said, voice low, "I've come to accept that you'll never stop your schemes. And I'm okay with that." I tilted my head, smirking. "Good. Because the fun has only just begun." He laughed, a warm, low sound, and I felt a dangerous flutter in my chest. But unlike the modern girl I had been, panicking over small crushes, I remained composed. Mischief, after all, was my ultimate weapon, and joy. The heroine passed by, radiant and unaware, adjusting her gown. I flicked a tiny charm on her shoes, causing a faint sparkle with each step. She glanced down, puzzled, then smiled politely, entirely oblivious. The hero laughed softly at my antics. Perfect. I sank onto a nearby bench, leaning back and surveying the garden. Glittered flowers, squeaky shoes, subtle enchantments, everything in place for the day's harmless chaos. My kingdom of mischief was thriving. The villainous support group would undoubtedly approve. Viola would clap dramatically. Mirabelle would take frantic notes. Katerina would sip her tea quietly, smiling faintly, and Penelope would nod in approval. I allowed myself a deep breath and a wide grin. This was it. The ultimate realization. Survival wasn't about hiding, avoiding doom flags, or pretending to be perfect. Survival was about embracing your quirks, your creativity, and your mischievous joy. And the hero? Well, he seemed willing to play along, amused and intrigued by my antics. The heroine? Blissfully oblivious. I leaned back on the bench, sparkling charm in hand, and whispered to myself, life as a villainess isn't tragic, it's mischievous. And I love it. Because in this story, I had rewritten the rules. Mischief reigned supreme. Chaos was a form of happiness. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. And this, I decided, was the way I would live forever. Pranks, glitter, laughter, and endless playful chaos, with the hero occasionally caught in the delightful fallout, the heroine blissfully unaware, and the story's doom flags powerless against my cunning. The Mischief Queen had ascended. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.